Hey guys, it's Jake here. I think this is tutorial 26, and in this tutorial what we're going to be doing is making these enemy jets blow up once a bullet hits them. So to start off, what I had to do is make an explosion little picture over here, explosion.png. What I did, I just put it on my sprite file, and it looks kind of like that. This is just temporary, and yeah, that's why it looks like that. Anyways, I tried to make it look like an explosion, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna appear when the jet blows up. So to do that, what we have to do is we are gonna start off with making a new bullet function. Now this is more for readability in a way, but I'm just gonna copy this one right here, paste it in. I'm going to take out this stuff, and I'm going to rename this bullet.recycle, just so it's easier. And I'm also going to take out this right here, and I'm going to put it in this.recycle in the bullets draw function, just so we know that it's recycling when it does this. So that's what that's going to do. It's just going to recycle the jet or the bullet back to negative 20x, which is what we had. We just made a new function. Okay, so after that, what we need to do is inside the bullet object constructor right here, what we need to do is add two more variables or properties to it. Let's call this one this.hasHit. We're going to set it to false by default. HasHit is going to turn to true when it hits an actual jet. The next one we want to add is explosion. Whoops. This.explosion. Now, when a bullet hits a jet, we're going to have an explosion, and each bullet is going to have its own explosion object. And to do that, we just named a variable this.explosion right here. We're going to set it equal to a new explosion. There we go. Now what we need to do is actually create an explosion object. So down here, let's just go like this. Explosion functions, end of explosion functions. Whoa. There we go. And let's just name it function explosion with a capital E, because it's an object. And inside of here, what we need to do is put a couple different parameters. Just like the draw or the bullets here, we can copy basically a couple of these already, because the explosion is going to have its own source, its own draw, and its own width and height. So the source X for my explosion is, if I zoom in here, my source X is 750. So source X, 750, and my source Y is 500. So I'm going to type that in there. It's already there, actually. That's perfect. Okay, now the draw X we don't really care about. Let's just set it to 0. It doesn't really matter at all right now. The width of my explosion is 50 by 50. So I'm going to put in 50 here and 50 for the height as well. Okay, so that's the explosion. If I spell it right, explosion. That's what I'm... Okay, that's better. Explosion. Now, we want to create a method for the explosion. So let's just copy the bullet.draw function. That's what I'm going to do, at least just copy it. Paste it in. And let's rename this from bullet to explosion. And draw, it's the explosion's draw function. So we're going to leave it like that. Now inside of here, all we need to get rid of is that stuff. And inside, what we actually want to do is make an if statement, an if-else statement. So just like that, and then else. Now inside this if-else statement, let's see. Oh, actually I forgot two parameters for the explosion here. Two properties. We want two more actually. This one's called this.current frame. We're going to set that equal to 0. And this dot total frames equals 10. I think I tested out. Now, when our bullet actually collides with a jet, we're going to have an explosion that appears. Now, if you guys remember, our request animation frame basically draws something every single frame. We want our explosion to last a bit longer so that we can see it better. So what we want to do is actually make that explosion last more than one frame. And basically to do that, the current frame is what we started at, 0. Total frames is how long the explosion is going to be shown on screen. And it's at 10. Now in this draw function, this is where we tell it to when to stop basically. So if this dot current frame is less than or equal to this dot total frames. So if the current frame is less than the total frame, so if it's like 5 or 9 or something, anything below 10, we are going to say draw explosion. And I'll fill this in a second. So we're going to draw the explosion. And then we're going to make this dot current frame plus plus. Basically, it's going to increase the current frame by 1, so that if it's frame 2 as our current, then our next frame is frame 3. And it's going to keep increasing all the way up until 10 frames. And that way, we can make it last 10 frames. So in the else area, what we're going to do is if the current frame is more than this total frames basically, it has to be more if it's not less. Then if it's more, we're going to say this dot has hit. If it's hit with the if it has hit a jet, it's now going to become false because the explosion has dissipated. The explosion is over after it's past the 10 frames. So we're going to just say has hit equals false, and we also want to set this dot current frame back to equals 0. Because next time the bullet hits a jet, we want it to start at 0 again so that that explosion lasts 10 frames as well. Okay, so we have that part done. Explosion.draw. And now actually I'm going to take out this comment because that's right. This dot current frame plus plus. But the draw explosion, what we actually can do is go up to our bullet.draw and copy our draw line here. Just like that. So CTX jet, that's the context that our explosion is going to be drawn on. Draw image, image sprayed, this dot source X, source Y, width, height, draw X, draw Y. They're all here. That's why we can copy it, because it just works with it, which is good. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is go up to our bullet area, and we want to make another new function. This one we are going to call bullet dot check hit enemy. Oops, enemy. There we go. So this function, this bullet's check hit enemy, it's going to check if the bullet has hit the enemy. And if it has hit the enemy, we are going to, well, this is how we're going to check it. So first of all, let's make a couple lines in there. And what we want to do is check if this bullet that is being called, if it has hit any of the enemies. So what we need to do is actually go through all the enemies with a for loop. And just like our draw all enemies function up here, we just want to copy this because it's easier than typing it out. And we're going to come back down here to the check hit enemy. I'm going to paste in the for loop, just like that. So basically the bullet is going to go through every single enemy in the enemy list and see if it has collided with any of them. Now, if it has collided, this is how we're going to tell. Now, this is a pretty long if statement, so it's going to be a little different than what you guys would be used to probably. But basically, it's going to be laid out kind of like this because it's so long. We're going to put on more than one line. Okay, so for the if statement, we want to know if the bullets draw X, so this dot draw X is more than or equal to enemies I dot draw X. And if this dot draw X is less than or equal to enemies I dot draw X plus width. And I'm going to explain this all in a second. Whoa, it's weird. Width. Oh, I forgot the enemies I dot width. Okay, this dot draw y if it's less than, or sorry, more than or equal to enemies I dot draw y, and if this dot draw y is less than or equal to this dot enemies, oh sorry, not this, enemies I, oh I'm really messing up, I dot draw y plus enemies I dot height. Okay, so I'll explain this a bit now. Well, actually, I'll just put this back up here. There we go. Okay, so basically what this is saying, if the x of the bullet is more than the enemy's draw x, but less than the enemy's draw x plus the enemy's width. So basically, if the bullet hits anywhere between the front of the jet and the back of the enemy jet, then that is true. Now, if this if the bullet's y position is more than the enemy's y position, but less than the enemy's y position plus its height. So if I need some more jets here. Oh, well, I'll just show it on mine. No, I'll do it here. So if the bullet's y is less than the top of the jet, more than the top of the jet, but less than the bottom of the jet, then that means the bullet is in the jet's range area. Now, basically what this means is that if all together, this draw x, draw x, draw y, all together, if that's all true, then that means the bullet has to be within the jet's parameter somewhere, which means we obviously hit the jet with a bullet. So that's what this if statement does right here. Now, in this if statement, what we need to do, let me think here. No, that's good. So in this if statement, what we need to do is say this dot explosion dot draw x equals enemies I dot draw x minus this dot, let me think here, minus this dot explosion, dot width divided by 2. And then I'll explain that as well. This dot explosion dot draw y equals enemies I dot draw y. Yeah, that's good. What these two lines do right here is, once we know the bullet has hit, we're going to tell the explosions draw x and draw y. So the bullet has its own object of an explosion, and that way we can reference the explosions source x, draw y, all that stuff. So the bullet's explosions draw x and the bullet's explosions draw y equals these two things. Now the draw x, so if you guys think about it, the explosion, whoops, I hit the back button. There we go. The explosion draw x and draw y is right here. I just I made the draw x of the explosion equal to the enemy's draw x, so but minus the width of the explosion divided by 2. I just think it looks nice. If you guys think about it, pretend this is my enemy jet here, the gray one. If the draw x and draw y is the top left corner of an image, so if the explosions draw x and draw y was up here, it would be zigzagged around up there, and it would look kind of too high up, if you know what I mean. Like, you probably want the explosion to be near the nose. This is just making the explosion, these two lines right here just position the explosion. That's all they do. You guys can play around with it and see what looks better for your jets and stuff, but this is what I'm just going to use for mine. Okay, so that's the first two lines. The next line we need is this dot has hit equals true. That means that well, basically the bullets has hit property, we're setting it to true now, saying that it has hit an enemy. Now the next line we need is this.recycle. What this is going to do is after the bullet has hit an enemy, the bullet, so say the bullet hits an enemy right here, the bullet is going to reset itself back up here. It's going to recycle itself. That's what that does. And then also, since we have destroyed the enemy, we're going to say enemies I.recycle enemy. And that means that once an enemy has been hit, say I hit this enemy right here, their enemy is going to recycle itself back over here, just like it's being destroyed. Okay, so that function is done. Next, what we need to do is go into our jet1.drawAllBullets. So up here, jet1.drawAllBullets inside the for loop. Now, remember guys, in the for loop here, we say if the bullet's draw x is past the 0 line, that means we're allowed to draw it. But if it's not past the 0 line, that means it's hidden for now because we're not firing it. What we need to do is make another if statement saying that if this.bullets I dot has hit. That means that if the bullet has hit an enemy, that means that it's true. So if it has hit an enemy, this dot bullets I dot explosion dot draw. So what this is going to do is if the bullet has hit an enemy, then we're going to draw the bullet's explosion. Just like the it is the explosion's draw function right here. That's what we're basically calling. And then once it calls the bullet's draw, the bullet's explosion draw, we're saying we're just making sure that it's only going to last for 10 frames. That's what this if else statement does there. So the last thing we need to do is inside the bullet's draw function, what we need to do is above this, I think, we're going to put this bullet check hit enemy. Enemy. There we go. Now what this is going to do is it's going to call the function check hit enemy, which calls this. The bullet is going to go through all of the enemies and see which one it has hit. If it has hit any of them. If it's hit them, that means it's inside the jet's rectangle image. Now if it's hit, it's going to say the explosion's draw x and draw y is going to be this. It has hit an enemy, so it's going to be true. The bullet's going to recycle itself, so it disappears, and the enemy's going to recycle itself, so it also disappears. Inside, and then that calls the, what's it called? Oh, this up here, draw all bullets. It just knows that if a bullet has hit something, it's going to draw the explosion. And that's what that does. It's going to draw this function right here. Now, inside this if statement, if the current frame is below the max total frames, then it's going to keep drawing the explosion. Once the explosion has been going on for more than 10 frames, it's going to say you haven't hit that enemy anymore and that the current frame is back to 0, which thus stops the explosion from showing. So let's refresh this page and hopefully I don't have any errors. I'm going to shoot this enemy right here. Bam. Uh-oh, we have an error. We have an error. Okay, well, I'm going to have to check this one out. Hey guys, so I think I know what the problem is. I just looked over the code for a couple minutes and I noticed where my problem was. Since the bullet has the property has hit, it belongs to the bullet, but I noticed down here in the explosion draw function, what I have put is this dot has hit. Since this is in the explosions draw function, this then refers to the explosion itself. So I think what we should do instead is take out this dot has hit from the bullet function and move it down to the explosion function. So just right here, explosion dot has hit. Now we're going to need to change some things. This is now going to work though right here. But we need to come back up here, and in the bullet check hit enemy, what we need to do is put this dot explosion dot has hit equals true, which is good. And then we also need to come up here to the jet dot draw bullets. And instead of this dot bullets I dot has hit, we need to put this dot bullets I dot explosion dot has hit. And we're gonna try it now. Let's hope this works. Come on, Jet. Bam. See how it lasted 10 frames? I know it's hard to tell that it did last 10 frames, but I'll show you what I mean by that. Quickly, I'll come down here and to the explosion. Total frames are going to make it equal 100 frames. Okay, now when you see a bullet hit, it's going to see this is taking up 100 frames now. It lasted a lot longer than it did before. And then quickly, I'll come back over and type in just 1 frame. It's only going to last 1 frame, which is very, very fast, very brief. So we'll see it here. Bam, it's gone almost as soon as it appears. That's why I think I like 10 frames. It's not too bad. It shows explosion for a pretty good amount of time, so just enough. And this is all temporary. Like, if I was making this a real game, I would take more time in making the images and stuff like that. But I feel like this is pretty good for teaching you guys at least how the programming aspect works. I'm not the best graphic designer out there, so I'm sure if you guys want to know graphic design and stuff like that, there's tons of other YouTubers, but we are doing the programming aspect of game development. So hopefully you enjoyed this one, guys, and I will see you next time.